to shine on Happy Camper Life. We're loving, living, and learning online on Happy Camper Life.
Hi, this is Allison Miller, the CEO and founder of Happy Camper Live, and we are here at the Happy Camper Live podcast with our series, Raising a Happy Camper. And today my guest is Monique Young, the founder of Young Mind Creations. Hi, Monique.
Hello, how are you?
I am awesome. I feel like I already have a new camp friend. Okay, I'm just letting you know because you are a camp person and you are a former camp counselor. So yes, that's like the best thing on your resume, I think, for anybody. And you've also been a camp director, which is really cool. I want to talk about that. And you're a school counselor as well. So yeah, so tell us more about you and your great organization, Young Mind Creations.
So I've kind of had a wild ride as I guess a person who works in camps because I never really got to experience camp as a camper. I always kind of ran into it as a camp counselor first. So as I was studying to be a school counselor, I always wanted these experiences working with kids still. And I always found camps that were open for the summer. So I was quick to sign up. So I did a couple years as a camp counselor with a couple different camps, and then even became a director in my last year, right before coming a school counselor. So it was just kind of like everything fit very perfectly of like, okay, this is moving all together. So yeah.
Well, all the worlds, do collide, right? There's a lot of overlap between, summer camp and school, but there are some differences. And I thought it'd be really cool to talk about, like, what could schools learn from summer camps? Like, what could schools learn? Yeah.
You know what? I feel like when we think about summer camp, we think about excitement and fun. And then, I hate to say it, but a lot of times when we think about school, it's like, oh, it's work, So I feel like summer camp, it brings that excitement. And I feel like camp counselors, a part of their job is to bring excitement for the day. So, I think schools, I wish that a lot more of educators, they could get kids more excited about the school day, or just even highlighting like, hey, this big thing is coming up and we're going to do this as a classroom. I think we start off strong in the school at the very beginning, and then it just wanes off because it's like, oh, we have 8 more months of this. So yes, I love, camp culture is just like, let's get the kids excited. And then also camps do a really good job of like making sure that activities that are being done are tuned into what the kids like. Like as a director, I'd have my camp counselors come to me sometimes and they're like, well, my kids really liked the water gun fight or the water balloon fight, and we want to do that again, and we want to try it a different way or something like that. So they were so ready and willing to change activities that were more fine-tuned to what their students liked, and versus, at school, you have to follow a certain curriculum, and then you might have a short time to plan things. So it's just kind of like, okay, let me just go ahead and get it out and let's just see what happens,
Yeah. It's interesting when I say like what schools can learn, I think we could look at the big picture, right? Education, and say, you're right. Like there isn't a lot of flexibility for teachers,
Right.
and that does make it harder for them. Because it is, I think, the spontaneity of summer camp that makes it so special. It's that surprise factor. It's like I always say, it's like going to Disney World, right? For the first time, like, around every corner is like some fun surprise. And yeah, 8 months in school, it's not feeling like some fun surprise. But if you could bring that spontaneity, and for me, sometimes it's planned spontaneity. Like we don't just like wing it every day. We're always planning, we have structure, we have curriculums at camp too. We want the kids to come back with skills. So that was sort of one of the things that I was thinking when you were mentioning, being able to bring that kind of excitement to what they're doing. And then you made the first point, which was, it made me think of like rituals. Like camp is full of a lot of rituals, and it does take consistency. So if people are starting, their school year off with a ritual that might be how we say hello in the morning, or how we greet each other, how we say goodbye, how we end our day, what we do before we go to lunch, some music that plays, songs, things like that. I do believe that schools could learn a lot from camps in terms of
Right.
those
Be-
things.
Because I definitely think those type of rituals that you're talking about, it really builds onto that classroom community. At camp, it is a smaller group, so you already kind of feel bonded to these people that you're with, even if it's your small, counseling group. But at schools, there's so many more kids and so many more different ages. It's sometimes hard to connect to that when maybe you're a new student, or maybe you feel like the other kids at your school aren't similar to you, or maybe you don't get time to talk about your likes and interests, so you don't even know that you have connections with other kids in the classroom. But camp, you have so much more time and so much more flexibility to do that. And that's something that unfortunately schools don't have the leisure to do.
Well, let's just imagine a world where they can, and that there's a possibility that schools can learn from us as we're in this great conversation. And I think that, like, being able to have that time for the kids to connect and have those introductions, and play games like Two Truths and a Lie, or
Yeah.
guess who. I'm sure between us we can think of a ton of, like, icebreaker games that either you did as a counselor or you did with your group, and maybe putting that into
Like their morning meetings or something like that. That's something I always push for, is like, hey, have those morning meetings and, get the students to know each other, but for the students to also know you as a teacher.
Right.
Kids have so many likes and things that they are interested in, but like I said, unless they're asked about it, they're never going to really share those things because they don't know that they can. So yeah, for sure, doing more of those type of things, the small activities and games, and getting to know each other, that is crucial. It is a game changer.
We have this activity that we do during orientation at camp, which is, this commonality, like Venn diagram kind of thing, but you kind of find the things that everybody in your group has in common and the things that are different, and you can look at that whole thing and share it. And we can play. Why don't we play? That'll be fun. You ready? So we're going to find 3 things that we have in common. Okay. Now, it may not come easily. We already know we have camp in common, right? So let's think of 3 things we have in common.
Okay. So what region are you from? What region of the US?
I'm from the Southeast. I'm in Florida. Where are you?
Oh, I'm in the Midwest.
In the Midwest. Okay. Let's see. You have a child. I know that because I can see some playthings behind you, and celebrating a birthday soon, right?
Yes. So you have a boy or a girl? Do you have any children?
I do. I have a boy and a girl. So
I have a boy and a girl too.
there you go. So we just found one thing in common, right? So we both have a boy and a girl. The second thing is that we both have been actually camp counselors and camp directors. So we get that as our second. I guess on the third, let's see, what else can we find in common?
I'm trying to think, because like my brain is going straight back to camp.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's find a camp. Like, what's your favorite camp food?
It's horrible because I feel like it's not really a food, it's a dessert, but s'mores is my favorite thing.
All right, I could go with that. I'm a bit of a s'mores freak, so we have that in common too. So there, we've got our 3 things in common, okay? And then let's think, so that would be kind of, in a group, really, that's already a conversation. I feel more connected to you, and that didn't take us more than, a minute. So even if the kids could do it one-on-one, if you can't even do it in a whole group, and if they turned around every day and did that for 1 minute, then they'd have some connection with every kid in the class, which would be really fun, and then share it. And then, what of our differences, what don't we have in common? What makes us unique and special? We say superpower. What's your superpower?
Oh, what's your superpower? Oh, Oh man, I think I'd have to take a guess on that. My superpower is probably organization, if anything. I'm really good at organizing, but not my things, more so ideas. I'm good at organizing ideas.
I love that. And creating, which you clearly do. You're about young mind creation. So
Yeah.
organizing ideas sounds perfect for you. I think for me, putting together systems is, I'm big
Mm,
on systems right now. That's my big thing. So I
yeah.
would say, we probably are different in that aspect.
Hmm.
And we live in different areas of the country, so we have
Yeah.
that as a difference. What kind of music do you like? I love going to the music. That's always good conversation. I'm going to
I
surprise you with mine.
I like a lot of R&B and pop music. So, if I hear something on the radio, I'm like, okay, let me listen to this. It's pretty good. Okay. So
That's
yeah, I like a lot of R&B and pop. That's usually where I stay.
all right. And I am a 70s classic rock person.
Wow.
All like
Oh.
classic rock. I love classic rock. Yeah. So yeah, and I know no new music because I'm pretty stuck on my 70s classic rock. Except when I get to camp and I hear all the music at camp, I'm like, oh, and they're like, yeah, that song's like 2 years old. I'm like, all right,
All the dances. Yeah.
right, all those dance parties. Well, that's another thing. So this is just a great example of how quickly you can connect. And I think that's sort of another thing, like music in the classroom, and that's random dance parties or, TikTok challenge,
Right.
dancing, things like that are really great. So I think it's, you know, there's a lot of benefit that schools can get from looking at the summer camp space, and I think would definitely support the kids in the classroom.
And
And
even in a summer school format, I remember a couple of years I tried to propose to my principal an idea where, the kids got to what I call enrichment, but have enrichment for half the day and then do instruction the second half of the day. And he was like, okay, I have quotas from my boss, so we can't do that. He said, I'm all with you, but I can't do that. But, to me, I'm just like, we all know is backed by research that kids, the way that they learn is through play. And so, for it to get kind of cut down and shortened to like 20 minutes, and I know some people only get like 15 minutes of recess, I'm just like, oh, it's their development. They need this time, even if it's organized play, that's still, getting to learn these social skills that they really need, how to work together as a team, how to have patience and wait your turn, like just very simple things.
yeah, well, it sounds like you have so much insight to offer on this topic. It's really great. And maybe your school, may not be able to implement some things, but maybe there's someone listening who's like, well, hey, I could do that in my school. So let me
Mhm.
bring that to my principal. So, I mean, I was just thinking like, so what kind of ideas, you're a school counselor
Mhm.
and, you understand camp. So kids are going off for the summer. What kind of things can they learn at camp that would help them when they come back to school be a better student or better friend, better person? I don't want to define them just as a student.
What type of things would help them learn as they're going off to camp, you said?
No, actually, like, what could they learn from camp they're going off for the summer.
Uh-huh.
And what do you think that they can sort of learn or get out of the summer that they can bring back to school in the next school year that will
Mhm.
help them be a better person or student?
Typically, what I've seen, coming from a director's view and then kind of watching the students over, kind of like a hawk, I see that a lot of the participants or the campers, like a lot of them is their either their first time or they don't really know anybody else there. Like they
Right.
don't have anybody else from their school or something like that. So it really kind of pushes them to be more open to introducing themselves. And I think even now I've seen like in the past 5 years that that's even more nerve wracking for kids. Like kids have a
Yeah.
lot of anxiety about new situations. And so, just thinking about that nervousness of, okay, I don't know anybody here. Should I talk to them? It looks like those two people already know each other, or
Everybody knows each other.
right. It kind of pushes them to, start to have those conversations. Cause I think, even my more anxious campers, they might wait a couple of days and they might, start looking at some other campers like, well, okay, I think maybe this is somebody who has the same interests as me, or maybe I can talk to this person over there. But, you'll have your more extroverted campers who are like, hey, who are you? And do you like dogs? I like dogs too. So it's just like, it'll put you in a situation where you finally do kind of open up and get more comfortable with introducing yourself to more people. It's like, okay, I don't know that person, but we talked today. Maybe I could talk to another person. So I really love that, because in schools too, specifically because most of the time they are just with their one, classroom.
Right.
They don't get to mingle and talk to the other students in other grades unless recess, or like I said, if it's maybe they have a sibling and they're talking to their siblings' friends, but they don't really get to cross connect in that type of way. Whereas camp, sometimes you have your big camp days or big camp activities where everybody's all together. So I think that that's something that really helps develop kids. It's just, that kind of openness and learning new skills that way.
It's funny. It reminds me, my daughter went off to college, and during the first week of school, she didn't know her roommate. So they, became roommates, and there were a lot of trips up and down the elevator. And the elevator would stop at every floor, and it was a tall building, and the elevator was quite the ride. And they made an agreement that they would say hello to every single person that they met going inside and outside the building and in this elevator. And
that's a good strategy.
Yeah, it was great. And so then, like, about 3 weeks later, I went to the campus to see her, and we're walking by people, and everybody's saying hello to her. And I'm like, how do you know all these people? And she said, well, yeah, the first week of school, we made this decision. We were going to say hi to everybody, and everybody knew her name, and they were saying hello. And it made it such a warmer community for her. And it was a big school, but there was a sense of, and she's not the I can't say she's not the extroverted person, but she's certainly not walking over to everybody. Hey, how are you? How's your, whatever, and I think that's something. And she said, I got that from camp. Like, what she loves about camp is that she can walk around camp, and I love this too, and everybody knows your name and everybody says hello. We have like a 6-foot rule. Like, you don't pass anybody without saying hello if you're within 6 feet of them. So it's things like that really force the kids to connect. So I definitely feel like that comfort of coming back from a camp experience, talking to people you would never really talk to, put yourself outside your comfort zone. Those are things that'll really help you be a more successful student. And I think the bottom line is that I'm not a school counselor, but I would just assume a happy kid, a happy camper, whether they're at school or at camp, they're a better student if they're a happy camper, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So I think there's so much. I really do. Like, I feel like maybe we are onto something. We should maybe write a book about this. I'm thinking maybe we should. I actually do. I think maybe we should.
It's needed.
Yeah, it is definitely needed. And so, tell me about Young Minds Creations. I feel like we didn't really get a chance to dive in there.
So, like I said, I transitioned this year actually from school counseling into education consulting, and Young Mind Creations is the name of my education consulting group. So what that means is I help schools and we build social emotional teams. So you know how like at camp, of course, you have your campers and your kids, and most of the times they have certain needs, and their needs might be that, you have a kid that wants to make a friend, or you might have a kid that's not feeling so good that day, or they might feel lonely at camp, or, but at camp, you have your camp counselors that are there to help them in that sort of area. Well, at school, you typically have like your social workers, your school counselors, you might have administrators that are part of that team. But basically, I teach them how to work together and use data so that they're not just being reactive to what's going on in the school, or being reactive to the students' needs, but being more so proactive and kind of being able to know beforehand, hey, this might be an issue. So we need to give this kid some extra support. We need to give them a check-in, check-out partner, or we need to make sure that they get some type of mentor, and just making sure that they have a safe adult in a school. But, you know, when you don't have systems, kind of like you were saying earlier, when you don't have systems, or you don't have organization or communication between staff members in school, just like at a camp, everybody has to know what the day is going to look like. You can't just be like, hey, I just got here at 4 o'clock. I'm going to come get the kids. And then you don't really know what's going on. Us as staff members, we have to talk to each other so that we know how to best support students. So like I said, that's what I do as an education consultant. I want to make sure that every kid is getting their needs met.
Oh, that is awesome. So give me a really good success story.
Oh goodness, I'm like, so many kids, so many
I
kids.
know.
On
I feel like I want a
average,
success story.
on average, I have about 450 students each year. So that's all, like, I'm sifting through the kids. I will say the one that pops up in my head right now is I had a student back in kindergarten. And during this time in kindergarten, she was kind of one of our high flyers, you know, one of those kids that was constantly in the front office. We would get calls like, please go down to the classroom. You know, she's having a rough day, or, you know, we don't know how she's going to be doing. So I'd go down there and she's like jumping on the table and like really putting on a show. And she was really, like, she knew what she was doing, but it was other needs that she had at home that weren't being met.
Right.
And so we've had that student all the way until 4th grade. But I want to say, you know, we really talked as a team. So like my admin, myself, a social worker, we really, you know, sat down with the parent and was like, hey, you know, this student has some needs and this is what we're seeing here at school. I don't know if she does this at home, but this is what she's doing here. And I don't know if you are aware of this. And, you know, she's going to need some more support. So if grandma or auntie can help, then we would really love that support. And so, you know, they got on board with that. And of course, it took some time. But this past year in 4th grade, she was given a district award for like top student of the year. And I was just like, her behavior, like you wouldn't even know if you were to go in a classroom, because she's the one sitting down like, I have the answer, you know. Whereas, you know, I remember her in kindergarten and she was the one dancing on the table. So I was just like, man, it really does show that the support and the attention, because like I said, we could have just went the whole school year and just kind of been like, oh, let's just keep suspending her because she's not following directions, or she's not meeting, you know, the standards of what she's supposed to be doing. We could have done that, but we were like, you know, we need to be proactive. We know that she's typically going to have a rough day. So what can we do to support her and make sure that her day is a little bit more easier each day? And like I said, little by little, it got better. And I'm just so proud of her. Yeah.
That's a great story. That is a great story. I could see how proud you were, just as you're telling, you know, to have that impact and to have the buy-in, you know, from the, you know, sometimes you don't always have the buy-in from the parent, which can be really hard. And the family. And I love how you talked about like grandparents and aunts and uncles. And there's a bigger family, you know, sometimes that,
for sure.
you know, you can reach out to as well through the parents to just say, you know, everybody, what do we say? It's like, takes a village, right? You know, so we got to figure out who's in the village for this kid.
That's what my principal would say all the time. It takes a village. It takes a village.
It takes a village. And what a great way for you to take that and reach more kids by having a consulting business. And then you are, you know, there's just a bigger ripple effect. And, you know, that's what I did with Happy Camper Live. Like we wanted to bring summer camp to every kid in the world because we knew the benefits. Not every kid can go to camp, but how can we
Right.
bring, aspects of camp to kids that can't afford it or are geographically are not able to, go to camp, but can we help them find their passion and tap into their joy? And we know, and you and I know, that when kids feel joy, right, and are connected to something, feel like they belong to something, then they're going to be happier, whether they're at school or they're at camp, right? It's their whole self. So,
Yeah.
Well, you're awesome. I'm so glad we had the opportunity to talk today, and I
Yes.
I'm sure I'd love to hear even like more success stories, because I think by hearing that, people see the possibility. And I do believe, Monique, that a lot of what, has made you so great at what you do is this combination of, taking this experience you've had, wearing this other hat as a camp director, and bringing that to kids in a year-round environment. So I just appreciate us connecting and talking about that. And it's been
Thank
really
you so
fun.
much. Like I said, I love camp. It's something that I told my husband a long time ago. I was like, you know what? I said, if I am doing something else, because I knew I was on the track to be a school counselor. I said, I want to like retire and work at a summer camp. I just want the rest of my life to be around kids in a happy place. That's just where I want to be. Like, I just want to be at a summer camp.
Well, that's awesome. Well, we get to be at summer camp every day at Happy Camp for Live, so you can always come visit with us. So I just want to let everybody know again, Monique, you want to tell them you have some really good resources too on your YouTube channel. So you want to tell people about that?
Yeah, so my YouTube is also under Young Mind Creations. And if you go there, I talk about social emotional learning a lot. I read some articles, so more so for parents, if you're trying to figure out how to support your students with their social emotional learning or social emotional support, I talk about that on my YouTube channel. So, check it out when you have some time.
Definitely. And if you're looking for activities, she's got activities for your kids too to do during the summer that are really
Oh,
great.
yeah. I have a specific video where I've learned through Canva how to create coloring sheets, like your own custom coloring sheets. So my son had a birthday not too long ago, and I made like custom sheets that said happy birthday and had his name on them and all the decorations and stuff. So yeah, it was a pretty cool gift to give to the other kids.
I love that. I love that. So I'm encouraging all of our listeners to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Happy Camper Live podcast. And again, this is Raising a Happy Camper, our series. And I'm just thrilled and appreciative to be here with Monique Young from Young Mind Creations. And, for more summer camp content, you can check us out on YouTube, but also other places where podcasts are hosted, like Spotify and Apple. And my gosh, Monique, there are a million places where you can hear great podcasts these days. So go to those whatever you like to listen to, and tune into Happy Camper Live. And Monique, have a wonderful rest of the school year. And summer will be here before we know it. So you get to play camp again.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Take a moment to shine.